Hey guys, Kevin is my for the Vampire Diaries, Season 7, Episode 3, Age of Innocence, and I was definitely looking forward to this episode. I think the season's been really great so far. I can understand some people haven't been really loving it, but I thought this was the best episode of the season by far. I mean, for me, this was the first perfect episode of this season. The past two episodes, I think they've just been trying to find, their footing, really. They've been trying to find out how to move the show off without Elena and things like that. And I think this was the first episode that it really didn't feel, it felt like, I've kind of forgotten about the old Vampire Diaries. Obviously, I'll remember it, but I'm fine with this, honestly. At this point, I'm perfectly fine with this. I think this is really great where they're going. And a lot of this episode was a lot of key flashbacks and really showed why these characters are as important as they are. And kind of gave me some hope that we might actually see them on the originals just from these flashbacks. I kind of feel like that's where we're going. But let's get into this episode because I thought it was amazing. And I definitely really, really loved it. So we begin the future and we see Tyler. Tyler, surprisingly, who I thought was gone from the show, but again, these are flash forwards, and I know people are saying, "Oh, Tyler's come back to the show." This is a flash forward, so who knows what's going to happen. He receives a call from Stefan, who's hurt, and we can tell these future things, they're going to be a regular thing. Tyler agrees to help him reach Caroline and tells Stefan that he should be running. Again, we know that something's going on with Caroline. We know someone's after her. We know that she wants nothing to do with Stefan, and we know that someone's after Stefan and Damon. So Stefan lights his car on fire, but saves his drone before he does so, and he tells Tyler that his scar opened up, and that's all we really get of the future in this episode. So again, they're really giving us little things here and there, but not a lot, which I do like. I like that they're not giving us major details because it keeps us intrigued. It keeps us on the edge of our seats wondering what's going to happen next, and I love that. So Bonnie's writing to Elena when she gets a terrible flashback. I like that we are getting, like I said, these journals to Elena, but then she all of a sudden gets this terrible flashback of death, blood, and screams, and that's really interesting how she's, thinking about that. Alaric then still has the stone, and Damon is actually staying with him, and he's only with him until they get Elena back. That's what he wants to do. He's again concerned that because this stone can bring back people, obviously Damon wants to try to break Elena's spell. The thing is, though, Elena's not dead. Okay, so Elena's not dead, and the stone can bring back dead people supposedly, but Elena's not dead, and I don't think Damon realizes that. I think Damon does realize that, but I think he's hoping it's gonna work on Elena when it's really not, because it seems like it only works on dead people, and I don't think it's gonna work on Elena because one, Nia Dobra says she's never coming back to this show. We're never gonna see her again. Two, it only works on dead people. So basically, we then see that Bonnie comes in and asks Alaric if he destroyed the Phoenix Stone. He lies to her and she believes it, and pretty much she doesn't think anything of it. Obviously, he has it, and I like how Damon is with Alaric and he's kind of working against Bonnie. It's going to be very interesting, especially because Damon and Bonnie are as tight as they are. It's interesting that Damon, knows Alaric's secret, knows what he's doing, and Bonnie doesn't. I found that very interesting. Obviously, because Bonnie knows how powerful it is, but Damon persuades both Bonnie and Alaric to join him on a road trip, and besides the flashbacks, that's all we get with Damon here. So Caroline is in captivity, and Nora and Mary Louise are continuing to play tricks on her. Stefan calls his phone, which he dropped when he tried to save her, and he tells her that he's working on getting her out. When she asks about Valerie, she cites that the journal entry, before Stefan could answer Caroline, of course, she asks who Valerie is and why he has so many journal entries about her. And before he can answer, Caroline is attacked by Valerie, and Stefan's concerned and approaches Lily about the girls hurting Caroline, and he then asks about Valerie, and after telling her, and he also tells, he does tell Caroline about him and Damon and how Lily wants them to turn against each other. Now he has this plan that he absolutely is going to hate Damon. I think they're being very clever in doing that, and that's a way to have these threats not be identical to other threats. Because some people have said there are a lot of comparisons with, like, Catherine with some of the girls. I could see that, but getting these brothers to turn against each other, that's something they've never done, and I think it's really interesting that they're doing it here. I really do like that. So he then asks Valerie after telling her that he and Damon aren't speaking, and Lily says that she met Valerie way before he did, and she was actually the one who sent her to him. And here we get our first flashback. Now, the flashback occurs of Stefan's first meeting with Valerie, basically, which I thought was interesting, the way they meet, and basically, Caroline's asking Valerie about her relationship with Stefan. Valerie says that she was the first love of Stefan's life, and that, she loved him as much, she very much loved him, and basically, she was his first love, and I thought that was very interesting. We thought Caroline was, but I mean Catherine was, but it actually was Valerie. So Stefan helps his mother change her flat tire, and she admits that she sent Valerie to see how he was doing because she wasn't over losing him. And clearly, Valerie still has those feelings for Stefan. Does he have those same feelings for her? I'm not really sure. I mean, it's obviously very awkward. His ex is now talking to his girlfriend. It's very strange. And she tells him about a gentleman friend named Julien, and Julien is a very important part of this episode. She says Julien was the man she was supposed to not fall for before a flashback of the man himself, and he seemed to be extremely attracted to her. He had a huge crush on Valerie and approaches Stefan and Valerie, and he scolds Valerie about getting close to Stefan. And clearly, he did not want Valerie to be with Stefan for whatever reason. Why this was, we don't know. But for whatever reason, he did not want them to be together, and we don't exactly know why he didn't want that. But for whatever reason, he didn't. And Valerie then tells the same story to Caroline that has said that Stefan was gorgeous, and she actually fell for Stefan, and she was only a witch at the time, and, she obviously was told not to, but, it's understandable why. She obviously had those feelings for him. She couldn't just put it aside, and it was all just something that she was hoping wouldn't happen, but it happened, and honestly, that's fine. That happens to people. There's really nothing she can do about that. So she tells him, basically in the flashback, Stefan vents about his life to Valerie, and she tells him that there's no shame in missing his brother. Because, this was back when Damon was this cold-blooded killer and killing all these people and things like that. I mean, obviously, Stefan was much different then. I always love the flashbacks as well because it shows how much these brothers have grown, especially Damon, who, is no longer this cold-blooded killer and probably would not hurt people nearly as much as he does, in this, which I thought was interesting. But I like seeing that. I thought that was definitely really great. And also, I have to say, Valerie and Stefan definitely had really good chemistry. You really believe that these two were in a relationship together, and I thought that was really great. And Stefan notices that Julien is quite persistent. He's not stopping and pursuing Valerie. Even though Stefan and Valerie are together, he still wants to be with Valerie. And Valerie says that they shall evade him. She performs a cloaking spell, and that makes them disappear from Julien. And, that was very smart. So Caroline asks her what happened next and realizes that the spell she put in her last week was really to keep Stefan from being able to touch her. It had nothing to do with protecting her. So while it seemed like Valerie was getting close to Caroline, now we know why. Obviously, Valerie did this because she wants Stefan all to herself, and you can tell why. Obviously, they had a bond, and we find out more of what's going on here. Valerie and Stefan were actually a very big item because it appears, like I said, as if she was really his first love. It really seems like this is genuinely true. Now, again, and I don't think Valerie is by any means stretching the truth here. I know some people could be saying, oh, this isn't true, but it seems like they are telling the truth here. And, there's quite a long sex scene that happens between them, which was fine. We haven't had a sex scene in the Vampire Diaries in a while, so it was cool to see that. Especially because it was like Victorian times. I thought that was pretty cool. Caroline is a bit hurt after hearing the story. Valerie has a smug grin on her face. This is clearly something that she's very happy about. But Caroline did not want to hear the story at all, because she never knew about Valerie. And she does tell Valerie that, it seemed like, she does tell Valerie that she is very much like Catherine. I see a big difference in Catherine and Valerie, though. Catherine just didn't give a shit about anything, while Valerie genuinely seems to care for Stefan. Catherine, I don't think really ever did care for. I think she did care for Stefan, and she really did want to be there for him. But Catherine was definitely more of a badass than Valerie ever will be. Valerie, I think, is more just hell-bent on getting Stefan back, which is a bit one note, but I think it works very well for her character, and I definitely really do like that. It differentiates the two, definitely. So, basically, Alaric and Damon are going over a plan to capture Oscar, who I believe is the coroner that Alaric approached. They want to capture him. And Bonnie says they first need to see if Oscar can help with the mysterious visions, because she doesn't know where these are coming from. Just all of a sudden, she's having these weird visions. And I'm pretty sure these visions are connected to the stone. We don't know what the stone is, but we know the stone is very bad. Alaric seems to think it's good, but we know that the stone is very bad, and I feel like that's really triggering Bonnie's visions. So, when Damon knocks the door, Oscar opens it and appears to be drunk, and he recognizes Damon and says it's good to see him, and he even calls him old friend. So, clearly these two have a connection before. And basically, Oscar has sussed the three of them out and tells a story about meeting Damon in a bar, and his story is very similar to Valerie's, and Oscar was sent by Lily to check on Damon, and Oscar sure is wild and has a room full of near-dead women, And you can see that Oscar is not the most responsible person ever. He's definitely not a very responsible person, I think, really at all. And I thought that was definitely uh, interesting that we saw that with him. Definitely that was quite interesting of the scene that we saw there. So basically, that's what happens with that. I like the character of Oscar overall. I liked him. Seven is then taking a ride with Lily, who continues to explain why she sent Valerie, and then we see another flashback with Stefan and Valerie to follow him so that he can't show her something, and he brings her to, at the time, Lily's grave. He thought Lily was dead at this point, and explains that he goes there every day to place flowers, and he feels like he failed his mother because he won't be able to bring the flowers necessary for an herbal tonic that could have saved his mother, and he really feels like he's the cause of this. I really felt bad for Stefan, I have to say, honestly, because you see again the one thing about Seven is that he just loves his mother so much, and that's the one thing that is probably his biggest weakness, that he loves her so much, and it's something that's going to drive him crazy. But that's why her plan is working so well, because the fact that he loves her, that really is what the problem is there. So that's really what's going on with that, and I thought that was definitely very interesting, just that scene there. I really did enjoy that, I have to say. I definitely like that. And I thought that was very well done. But basically, Stefan feels guilt for not being fast enough and confides in Valerie, and Valerie relieves him by telling him that the tonic would not have saved his mother from consumption, and you could tell that Lily probably had some alcohol problems, and she tells him that his father sent him on a fool's errand and that her death was not his fault, and Julien then breaks up the party and tells Valerie to come with him, and this guy is just not stopping. He's gonna keep pursuing her, and Stefan asks when he will see her again, and all she says was that she would find her way back to him. So we are to assume that this was probably the last time that they saw each other. And Caroline says that it's like the Notebook, except that they haven't seen each other in a while. And you can understand why Valerie really wants to be with Stefan, because she kept this promise to him. She obviously feels bad that she never, kept that promise, and she wants to get back together with him. And I can understand that, honestly. That's something I like about Valerie, is that I understand why I don't think Valerie's a bad person. I think she's crazy for Stefan, but she's not crazy. She has genuine reasons why she wants to be with Stefan, and I can understand that. So Valerie said that Julien had a way of convincing people to follow him, and Oscar tells Bonnie, Alaric, and Damon about his freedom away from the prison worlds, and Bonnie asks him to siphon her problems away, and Oscar doesn't want Lily to know about him straying away from the mission, and agrees to help Bonnie in return. Because, again, he's there to protect Damon. That's the only reason he's there, and basically he wants to help her. So he takes the vision away and asks where the Phoenix Stone is, and Oscar begins to attack all three of them and suspects them being up to something because they know about the Phoenix Stone. Obviously, he doesn't want them to know about it, and it's something that's very bad, and that definitely was very crazy. And Damon tells them that Oscar is gone, and Bonnie finds out that Alaric still had the Phoenix Stone, and that Damon knew. And that moment where she finds out, I thought it was interesting the way Bonnie reacted. She wasn't necessarily upset. She understood what was happening, and she nearly escapes Bonnie's wrath, but Alaric doesn't, and she scolds Alaric, and she does yell at Alaric for hanging on to the stone, and he says that Jo was the love of his life, and he needs to try to bring her back, or he'll spend the rest of his time wishing that he was still dead, and you can tell why he really does want to help her, and why he wants to bring her back, but again, I just don't really trust anything going on with this Phoenix Stone, just because of the fact that it's connected to Lily and that she wants it. I think that's enough of a reason to not trust to not, use this Phoenix Stone. It's just probably very dangerous and not a good thing for them to use. So, Lily tells Stefan that Valerie would never hurt him, but Stefan tells Lily about a telegram he received from Valerie, and it said that she would return and run away with him, but he waited, and she never showed up. So, Stefan accepts that he has been abandoned, and Valerie read all about it in the journal. So he pretty much feels that, he always felt that Valerie just didn't want to be with him, that she left him for Julien. And that's what this was all about. And I think the storyline overall, I can understand people think, oh, this is soap opera-ish, but I think it's actually very interesting. I have to tell you guys, I thought it was definitely very interesting when we saw this. And Caroline asks how she could do that to Stefan, and Valerie says there was a change of plans. She recounts being caught by Julien, and who told her that she would not be going anywhere. And basically, Julien asks her if Stefan Salvatore knows that she is pregnant with his child. And this is really what made Stefan really upset, because obviously I'm assuming what happened is Julien forced her to go with him, so he probably had sex with her, so that way she couldn't be with Stefan. I mean, he's very smart, I will say that. Julien's a very smart character for doing that, but obviously that's what mainly sets Stefan and Valerie apart. And Damon tells Oscar that he lied and that he did remember him, and Oscar saved his life back then, and Damon says he doesn't care about the stone. He wants to cash Oscar in for something way better. The two begin fighting, and Bonnie and Alaric help to capture him. They subdue Oscar, but Bonnie is still upset with Alaric and Damon, and she gives Alaric the stone and asks him to never lie to him again. And Damon definitely has a different plan for Oscar, because obviously he's making them think he doesn't know Oscar, but then he's telling them that he does. So I don't really know what Damon's trying to do here, but I definitely feel like there's something going on with Oscar that he doesn't want Bonnie and Alaric to know for whatever reason, and that's going to be interesting to see what that is. So Lily returns and asks for Valerie. Caroline tells her that she spent all day learning about Stefan's first time, and Lily asks about Caroline's mom, but Caroline just showed Lily Stefan's entries about his mother, who he loved and missed, and Lily asks her heretics to remove the barrier as a reward for Stefan's honesty, because, he told the truth, and Caroline hightails out of captivity, and basically, that's all she wants. She wanted Stefan to just tell the truth, and now that she has the town, got what she wanted, Caroline can go, and that's what happened there. So, meanwhile, Valerie pays Stefan a visit, and I thought this scene was very interesting because, of course, this is the first time they've talked to each other in decades. I mean, they haven't talked to each other literally in centuries, and basically she tells him that she often visited the bench to think, and she says it's strange being with him and finally with the ability to tell the truth. And in a flashback we learn that Valerie begged Julien not to tell Lily, and then he beat Valerie near to death, and she lost the baby, and Julien lied to Lily about what happened, and she heals her. So basically Valerie never knew how, Lily never knew how dangerous Julien really was. And Valerie says that Lily would not have forgave her for sleeping with her son. And Valerie tried to kill herself, but she died with Lily's blood in her. And of course, Lily did not want Valerie with Stefan. That was the big thing. She told her specifically, don't get close to Stefan. And, it didn't work. She died with Lily's blood in her. Her apology to Stefan was done under a cloaking spell, so we never really heard a word she said. And, that really sucks that happened. Even though she wanted to apologize to him, she was under this cloaking spell, so he never really heard her, and that really sucks that happened there. So he didn't get to hear in that scene, unfortunately, which really sucks. But I like seeing that Valerie feels regret and she feels really upset about what happened. And again, I know that Caroline and Stefan, I'm supposed to be rooting for them, but I honestly feel really bad for Valerie. I know that she is just, a new character, and that she is a villain, but I really sympathize with her, and I think that's really what's good about the Vampire Diaries in the originals. You can really sympathize with these villains, and Valerie's a perfect example of that. I don't think Valerie's a villain at all. I think she simply is just someone that's in love with Stefan, never really got to be with him, and it's going to be interesting to see really where that goes, because that could definitely be something that I think could be very compelling. We'll have to see what happens with that. So, also, I'm kind of starting to think that Caroline's fiance might have to do with the end of this episode. I'll get into that. But Alaric and Bonnie are trying to figure out what the Phoenix Stone has to do with her visions, because obviously it's connected to them. Bonnie asks him if he understands what they're trying to do because it's necromancy, and Alaric shows Bonnie the power of the stone in the morgue, but he can't bring Joe back alone. It's not going to work. Bonnie says she'll try to help him, and Damon calls his mother and tells her that he has Oscar and uses him to bargain for Elena. And Damon says he get it, she loved him, but then moved on to a new family, and that's basically what his plan is. He wants to use Oscar to bargain for Elena, get her out of this spell, and it's not going to work out well. I don't think this is going to work very well at all. And Damon says he get it, she loved him, but then moved on to another family, and Stefan is drinking, and I feel bad for Damon, really, because, she has all this contact with Stefan, but she has not once contacted Damon. She really hasn't at all, and Stefan is drinking his sorrows away when Caroline approaches, and he's excited and tries to touch her, but the spell still prevents it. Valerie is still implemented it, and Stefan says that he was young and human when Valerie met him, and Stefan tells Caroline that because she wants to know the honest truth. She wants to know if he still has feelings for her, which I think deep down Stefan does, but he obviously loves Caroline. He tells her that things have changed. There are different circumstances. He says he doesn't wonder about the past anymore, and all he cares about is that she is there and safe with him, and it seems like things are good there. But then it seems like the episode's over, and then the ending of this episode was very, very interesting. I really love the way this episode ends, and it could make the rest of the season very interesting. Valerie finds Oscar and tells him that he is in a college town near Mystic Falls, and Lily still doesn't know where he is because Valerie used a locator spell. So Oscar says he found Julien months ago but wanted to live a little before he returned, and he wanted to leverage Julian's location in exchange for freedom. Valerie rips Oscar's heart out and says Julian's the devil. She doesn't want Lily to bring Julien back, and that's basically what Lily's plan is. Now we know what Lily wants to do. She wants to bring Julien back, and that's how she gets Stefan and Damon turned against each other, obviously, because Oscar, obviously Damon was working with Oscar, and she just ripped his heart out, and that's basically how the episode ends. So that was a very interesting ending, and I'm very interested in seeing where the rest of this season's gonna go, because this has brought up some really interesting new plot points. I mean, I never thought I'd care about Valerie as much as I did. In fact, I thought these characters are gonna be kind of one note, but no, I really care about Valerie, I have to say. I mean, the thing is, Valerie, like I said, does care for Stefan, and I think, obviously bring Julien back. Here's what I'm thinking is gonna happen if they bring Julien back. Julien, I think, is Caroline's fiance. I think that what's going to happen is that Julien is going to, there's going to be like a spell that makes him fall for Caroline and try to steal her away from Stefan. And that will get her to be with him, and that's what he's going to try to do. And what's going to divide Stefan and Damon is the fact that Damon worked with Oscar. And that's obviously going to make Stefan very pissed because Oscar was for bringing Julien back, and I think that's really what's going to divide these two. Because I honestly feel they're going to be divided. It seems like her plan really is going to work, and we'll have to see what happens there. Does Stefan still have feelings for Valerie? I think he does. I think deep down he really does. He doesn't want to admit it, obviously, because, he really does love Caroline. I think he really does love her. I'm not saying he doesn't love Caroline. I think he does. But I think deep down, those feelings for Valerie, they're still there. I mean, they have not gone away. And I really felt bad for Valerie, especially the scene where she wanted to apologize to Stefan, but he has not seen her because she's under a cloaking spell, which really sucks. And hopefully there's a way to undo that so we can actually confront her and actually have a conversation with her. It's probably going to be very awkward, but I think he needs to face her and actually tell her what's going on, rather than just talking to Caroline about it. I think he's going to have to face her at some point, and hopefully there's a way to undo the cloaking spell so we can, in fact, talk to her. And again, Lily does not know what's going on between Valerie and Stefan. She never really knew. All she knew is that Valerie likes Stefan, but she told him not to get close to him, which is why Lily didn't have much of a reaction. So that's gonna be interesting. When Lily finds out, she's going to be pissed at Valerie, pissed at Stefan. It could make things very interesting if that happens, because I'm pretty sure Lily's going to find out at some point. Now, Damon wanting to work with Oscar. Obviously, Oscar wants to bring Julien back, and obviously, Valerie's completely against it, but Damon working with Oscar, is Oscar really going to bring Elena back? I have no idea. I don't trust Oscar, really. I really don't. It just seems he has a much darker agenda than we think he does, and that just makes me not trust him, honestly. This is a show where people are very shady, and you can't really trust a lot of people on this show, and that's one of the characters that I don't really think we should trust, and I don't really think Oscar is someone that is very trustworthy at all. I also think it's interesting with this stone. Why is Bonnie getting these visions? We don't really know what they have to do with, but they definitely are connected to the Phoenix Stone. But the Phoenix Stone, I don't think, is going to bring Joe back. I think Alaric wants to think that, but I don't think that's really what's going to happen. There's no way that this is going to bring Joe back. There's no way that's going to happen. And there's also no way that it's going to get Elena out of her coma. I think things are just a lot more different, because we know things are going in a very dark direction. Obviously, how does Tyler get involved in this? Because we know that Tyler's back in the one scene, so how does Tyler get back in this? I don't know. Maybe, for all we know, Tyler could be Caroline's fiance. I mean, that could make sense. Obviously, we know she has a fiance that's not Stefan, so Tyler could be a choice, because her and Tyler did once have a thing. So honestly, anything's possible there. We did not see Matt at all in this episode. Neither did we see Enzo, but I did not think we needed to. I thought this episode was perfect for what it did. I thought it perfectly established the new characters very well. I mean, I know that, like, Mary Louise, Nora, they weren't really there. But Valerie really needed to come full of center in this episode, and I thought the actress that plays her did a really great job. I really loved her performance, and I thought this episode was amazing because of that. I thought that's really why this episode was best episode of the season for me. I hope they keep episodes like this, because this is really what I want from the Vampire Diaries, is quality episodes like this. This is awesome, and especially with the focused season that they have. Like I told you guys, this is a very focused season. They're only focusing on, like, 2 things, and That's something I love. They're not focusing on 5 things, they're focusing on 2 things. That's why the season is so great, and that's why I'm loving it as much as I am. Because I really am loving this season, I have to say. But that is my review. Hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you guys thought of this episode. I thought this was an amazing episode overall. I absolutely loved it. A lot more than I thought it was going to. I will see you guys next week, which will be for tonight's episode of The Originals, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.